Yo, I'm Brendan, and I've been wrong about fractional shares. There's something that I've been talking about and a fan of for a long time, but I made a significant mistake every time I've mentioned them in the past. It's time to come clean. I realize that everyone makes mistakes, and I think most of us just prefer to not come out and rehash them after a while. Like, I don't want to relive the mistakes that I've made at my work, in my relationships, anything else. But since you and I have this fairly intimate relationship here, talking about money and investing and our future together, I think it's important that we clear the air. So here's the mistake. In the past, I've repeatedly claimed that if you have invested in a dividend-paying stock, but you don't own the whole share of the stock, then you effectively miss out on getting the whole dividend. So for example, if you own a half a share of JEPI, you would get no dividend whatsoever. That's what my claim was in the past for the last 4 years, and that's what I thought was true. Had I been right, that would be a big bummer, because then you'd be forced to either buy like a stock that has a lower price, because JEPI is like $55 right now. So maybe you have to buy stocks that are only like $10 a piece because that's how much you're investing. That would suck for you and your portfolio, because then you wouldn't be able to diversify properly, because maybe you bought a whole bunch of the same stock or fund or whatever so that you could seek out a dividend. Like, this is really for people who are like, hey, I really want to get a dividend. I'm going to buy something that gives me a dividend. And this guy told me that I wouldn't if I do this. So turns out that's actually a really big problem. I mean, it's a big problem because I told you the wrong thing, so I don't like that. But it's also a big problem for you and your portfolio because of the truth. And the truth is, I was totally wrong. From my recent research and reading that I've done, that I believe to be true now, if your investing service supports fractional shares, they should also support fractional dividends. So if you owned half a share of that same company, that JEPI, instead of getting no dividend whatsoever, you'd be getting a dividend of around 9%. It would just be 9% of your half of a share, if that makes sense. You wouldn't be getting the whole dividend, you'd be getting half the dividend. But your percentage would still stay the same. You'd still be getting 9% of whatever you own. And this is a huge deal because the total impact on your investments and your overall returns could be really substantial. And that's basically the opposite of what I said before. And it was wrong to say that. Maybe throughout this whole video, even like, hey man, that's not that big of a deal. A few bucks in dividends, if I get them, if I don't get them, like what difference does it make? What margin am I missing out on here? As it turns out, it's actually a huge margin. You're missing out hugely. So here's a visual representation of the impact of reinvesting your dividends. And I've shamelessly borrowed this from Charles Schwab. So if you want to see this full article where I found this little visual, there's a link in the description for it. This particular example is talking about a fund that would track the S&P 500. And if you'd been investing in it for around 30 years. And so what it's saying is over this long time horizon, you can see that that deeper orange color that's down lower would be if someone had invested and never reinvested their dividends. So the dividends just got essentially taken out, or they just sat there in cash. They weren't reinvested into the fund over and over and over, so you invested more and more money. And so if you did that, then you'd have just over $1 million. But the wild thing is, if you chose to reinvest your dividends, that figure doubles to $2.15 million. So for me to claim that fractional shares don't give fractional dividends could have meant the difference between you doubling your portfolio and not. That's a big deal. I needed to come here and clear the air between us so that you know the truth about fractional dividends and fractional shares. And it's probably another good reminder for all of us to do our own research and fact check whatever we're reading online, whatever people are telling us online. Even if we have good intentions, everybody's far from perfect, and we might misspeak or might have just bad, wrong information. I think I also felt a sense of insecurity, and like I needed to come at a lot of these topics from a point of authority, or acting like, you know, I've done my research, I know what I'm doing here, let me speak from a point of certainty. But I realized that that's putting myself at risk, because I might be saying the wrong things. If I'm coming at you with like, here's the truth, then I'm more likely to be wrong, or more likely to lead you astray. But I also feel like that's just kind of a cringy relationship to have, where I would rather this be more like we're sitting across the table from each other, we're having coffee, we're having a chat about money. That's really what it is. It's not like I am the ultimate money guru person. Like, I'm not Jeff Bezos. I'm not any of these guys that have solved the mystery of money. So I feel like I'm going to share everything that I can with you, that I've learned, share my opinions with you about certain things. And if I make mistakes again in the future, I'm going to come clean again. And despite making that claim before, personally, I've always invested my dividends. I've set them up to just automatically reinvest so that I can get the best gains overall. Like, I knew that was a thing, but somehow I didn't connect the fact that fractional dividends were a thing. And so if you're still kind of like unsure about why this matters, every time a dividend happens, you get like a little cash payment. And if you reinvest that, you get a bigger piece of that company. And so that then whenever that company goes up in value or when another dividend comes, it's like this snowball that's growing and growing and growing, and that momentum is growing. So your money is growing at a faster and faster pace all the time. And so that is a really like amazing concept that hopefully I didn't throw anybody off on. Like, I don't know if anyone listens to me that closely, but I really don't want to throw anybody off and prevent you from getting the most possible from your investments. And I think it's probably worth mentioning one more time here, just for posterity and legal reasons, that the videos I make are technically not investment or financial advice. Like, we're here as friends to hang out, to talk about money, financial services, apps, all that kind of thing, and share what we learn. But to get actual literal financial advice, you have to talk to a professional who has the proper certifications to do that kind of thing legally. I think having a place for us to talk here about money and share what we learn is so important to me, and it's such a privilege to make these videos. I love doing this for you, and thank you so much for being here. The secret comment word for today is turkey, because tomorrow's Thanksgiving. So see you guys next time. Appreciate you. Bye.